Start this meeting of the Weber County Board of Commissioners, dated this 23rd day of January 2018. Appreciate you all being here. We'll start this morning with an invocation by Shelley Hallisey, followed up by a pledge of allegiance by Miss Stacy Skeen, and then I'll give the thought. We'll go to that point.
Our dear, kind, gracious Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the opportunity we have to meet together as a community, to participate in a meeting where our government makes decisions for our county. Please bless our commissioners that they make wise choices, that they have the best interest of Weber County at heart while making these decisions. Some may be difficult. Bless them that they'll be able to work through those. We ask these blessings humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Our thought today comes from Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said, "There are many ways of going forward, but only one way of standing still." And I thought, a lot of times we talk about the different paths to get to a solution, but there's only one way to not do anything, and that's just do nothing. So that's my thought for the day. We have a presentation today from our Planning Commission. Rick Grover, thanks for being here.
You bet. Good morning, Commissioner.
Looking forward to this.
Last week, we had the opportunity to rub shoulders with our Planning Commissioners, Board of Adjustment members, and as you know, those people who serve on those committees just put in so much time in the county's behalf. It's all volunteer, and they have the county's best interest at heart. And in that meeting, we did a little presentation to the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, just explaining what's been going through the Planning Department office in 2017. And Commissioner Harvey asked if I would share that with you, and also so it's just out for the public to see what actually happened there too. And so with that being said, I'm just going to kind of go through a few of the slides that we talked about and discussed. So, and while they're pulling that up, oh, it's already up. So in 2017, a lot of great things happened and went through the Planning Department, and there was some controversial things that went through the Planning Department as well. And so, let's see here. It's not moving here. I had the same problem.
It doesn't show up on the TVs. You have to be on the sidewalk.
On the sidewall? There we go. In 2017, we had some changes to the Planning Commission. Steve Waldrop, we welcomed him back, and he was a great addition back to the commission, and it was nice to have his input. And also Chris Hogue, he has a wealth of knowledge from the Water District, and it was nice to have him on there as well. And then also we had a new Board of Adjustment member come on, and he did a great job. And he's really, he has building knowledge, Mr. Kevin Grimes, and it was nice to have him there as well. Unfortunately, in 2017, Scott Mendoza moved on from the Planning Department to operations, but fortunately he's still with the county, so that's a good thing. So we're glad to have him still with the county, and we can tap into his knowledge there. Also, as you know, we had a little shift in leadership. Commissioner Harvey is over the Planning Department, and we appreciate all you're doing right now, and also appreciate all Commissioner Gibson has done in the past as well. Some of the accomplishments that happened in 2017, we completed the resource management plan, which gives guidance as far as implementation strategies. whether it be with roads, planning items, parks. It just goes through and identifies a lot of things and how those things will be implemented. We also did the LiDAR maps, and they were completed, which clears a lot of area up in the Ogden Valley. And this has been huge, and we've been trying to get the flyover was done actually 2 years ago, but the maps were just barely all compiled together. So we've been able to use those in the last little bit, which has been very helpful for us, and it's also helped developers when they come in to look at parcels that they don't have to go through a lot of the red tape that was there previously. Also, as you know, with the annexation bill, Senate Bill 140, it basically has the potential to about almost 400 lots are going to benefit from this. And we have all these little islands throughout the county that we have to maintain, and now it gives the ability for them to be incorporated into the municipality that they're adjacent to, and it will save the county a lot of dollars, so that we don't have to go and maintain those roads or snow plow them in the wintertime, and it really will do a lot for us there. Also Powder Mountain, we've seen considerable growth up in that area. In just this last year, we've had 5 new subdivisions, a 10-plex townhome project, 20 single-family building permits, and we're almost ready to issue our first occupancy permit up there in the new section of Powder Mountain, which is really nice. Western Weber, they saw their 2 PRUDs come into the area and a few cluster subdivisions. As you know, we're working on some ordinance revisions to better define how development happens out there when these type of developments do happen, and that will be happening in 2018. But those are some growing pains that has happened out in the Western Weber area. Also with ordinances, we've had a phenomenal amount of ordinances that went through, more than any year before, which I'll show you in just a moment. But some of those things that have happened is we've relaxed some of the setback standards so that homes, property owners have a little bit more flexibility. We've allowed letter of credits for larger developments so that it makes it easier for developers to get through the process. And then we've also looked at updating the lighting standards, a few of those, and then also our fees were updated, which haven't been updated for years, and so that was very helpful. We also did some outreach to different communities, the Western Weber Open House, and then also up in the valley. And then we've also taken the Planning Commission meetings on the road up in the valley, which has been very nice too. We had about 3 Planning Commission meetings that went up there so that we take a right to the residents, which was nice for them. Some of the statistics that have happened in this past year, design reviews, as you can see, they are almost right up to where they were in 2005/6. So you can see that the economy is really changing there. Zoning petitions, they're on the increase there. Land use permits and other dwellings and structures, you can see right there that here again we're about right where it was in 2005 as far as the permits go there. Conditional use permits, they have went down a little bit, but they're a little bit on the rise, which is good, because we don't really, we're trying to get those type of uses going to the Planning Commission so that they don't have to deal with conditional uses, and so we actually want that number to go down as well. Building permits, as you can see, are on the rise. They're just off the chart right now as far as the permits that have came in, and projection for next year is probably just to see that increase. Hillside reviews, this is really nice that this number is down, because the nice thing about this is that it's showing that the developers don't have to go through a detailed process. The ordinances that we put in with the natural hazard ordinances cleared some of those lots, and the LiDAR studies have helped with that. And so you can see hillside reviews are extremely way down, and we want those to continue to go down to make it easier for builders. Subdivision lots, they have been increasing steadily. You can see there. And then code enforcement. The nice thing on this one is that the red and which are complaints, and the complaints resolved, blue, that they are together, and that means that the amount of complaints, they have been resolved. This is kind of all of those charts combined, which the white line just shows how things are steadily increasing. In that meeting, we did give a few recognitions out that I just want you to be aware of. We gave a little recognition out to our planning commission, who has taken the meetings on the road. And they went to the top of Powder Mountain to have a meeting, and which was very nice because they were able to see what was going on, and it was nice for the residents in the valley to actually be able to go and have the meetings up there in the Ogden Valley for them. This is kind of more of a sidekick, but anyway, Rhonda, she would always, she never missed a field trip, and one time she didn't have her boots on, but she trounced through the mountains in her high heels, and actually I was surprised because when she got back in the car, there was actually she was prepared because her high heels, they actually had like a waffle tread on the bottom of them, so I just kind of got a chuckle out of that one. And then the last, a couple more. As you know, planning staff, we like to write a lot of stuff, and you guys get a lot of stuff in your packets that you have to review. And I know that Commissioner Jennifer, Planning Commissioner Jennifer Wellner, she always was there reading her packets, and she was just, and I think all of them did, but I know that Jennifer was really good about that. And this is the last slide I just wanted to show you, is that the Board of Adjustment only had to meet 4 times last year, and this is really nice because it shows that the ordinances that are in place and what's going on, there's not that many appeals that have had to come before them, and so to only meet 4 times in a year, that's I've never seen that happen in my career, and it's neat for them not to have to come to meetings when we don't need to meet. So I just want to thank you, commissioners, for all your support with the planning department, and we look forward to serving you in 2018.
Rick, thanks so much for your leadership. All the positive indicators are up, and the indicators we want to go down all seem to be shrinking or deteriorating, and that's just, you and your staff have done a phenomenal job. And I wanted this presentation to be made public. It's also been live streamed, so you can go back and review it for those of you who want to see it. But just a great debt of gratitude to you and your whole department for a teamed effort. Very well done, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioners, any comment?
Nope.
Just want to touch base on 2 things. We didn't probably touch as much on the Western Weber. I know that staff visited out in Western Weber on several different occasions to address issues and talk to the community. I'm appreciative, as we initially had some of these conversations about taking some of those meetings on the road. There was again a concern because staff, which is stationed here, would have to travel, and there was some expenses that would be incurred, and Mr. Grover told me they would figure that out. They would work on doing some juggling if they needed to, and staff was excited to maybe do more place-based planning. I think there's been a tremendous return from the community. They appreciate when you actually go into the community and meet their needs. So I know from a county perspective, we're taking on a service-based mentality and creating that culture, and I think these are amazing examples of what we're accomplishing. So I want to say thank you to staff for thinking outside of the bureaucratic box and making those things happen. I think that the community is appreciating it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on our agenda to item number F, consent items. Request for approval of warrants 1323 to 1333 and 424784 to 425018 in the amount of $3,395,480.84. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $111,303.25. Item number 3 is a request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 16th, 2018. Item 4, request from the USU Extension Office for approval to surplus office equipment. Item 5, request from the Weber County Fleet Department for the approval to surplus road equipment. Item number 6, request from the Weber Morgan Strike Force for approval to surplus chairs. Item 7, request for approval for new business licenses. Item 8, request for approval to set the date of February 6, 2018 at 10 a.m. for a public hearing to discuss and take comments on a proposal to amend the following sections of the Weber County Code, definitions 101-1-7, conditional uses 104-22-3, 104-23-3, 104-24-3, and 105-225-3. Additions and enlargements 105-12-3, subdivision plat requirements for non-conforming lots, exemptions 108-12-11, and enlarging non-conforming lots 108-12-12. The proposed text amendments will define outdoor storage and include it as conditional use in the M1, MV1, M2, and M3 zones. The proposed text amendments will also allow parcels created prior to July 1st, 1992 containing a permitted single-family dwelling to be constructed a lot of record. Comments, commissioners?
Just two really quickly. I think Rhonda wrote consent item number 8 because she always has attention to detail. That's a joke for you, Rhonda. But just as a note, one of the items, I believe item number 3, or excuse me, item number 5 is a request to surplus some fleet vehicles. And I just wanted to notate that those were a 1997 and a 1995. It's time. So I appreciate the work that was gotten out of those vehicles, but it's time to move them along.
All the information and the detail for this can be found at Winning at Weber, our hashtag Winning at Weber, and go to our site as this agenda is listed. There's a hyperlink there for all of you to see the detail on that. Commissioner Gibson, anything? Mr. Hatch.
Okay, give a brief summary of the financial portion of the consent items. We issued 28 purchase orders this past week for $111,000. 39% of that amount, or $44,000, was for the garage, and that was for parts and supplies. 34%, or $38,000, was for the library, and that's to purchase books and audiovisual materials. And then 6%, or about $6,000, was for dispatch, and that's maintenance for their server. We issued 246 checks this week for $3.4 million. 44% of that amount, or $1.5 million, was for the library, and almost exclusively to the construction that's going on at the main branch and the North Ogden branch. 17%, or $572,000, is construction on the Skyline Drive in Pleasant View, and those are paid for not with county dollars, but with the Prop 1 money. Funds that go into our Weber area county of governments. 5%, or $177,000, is the monthly contribution that we make to the Weber Human Services organization.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Commissioners, any comment from Mr. Hatch's presentation? I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioners, before you do that, if I might add one recommendation, I would recommend removal of item number 6. About a year and a half ago, the financial oversight of the strike force was moved from the county to Ogden City, and so it would actually be Ogden City who would approve the surplus.
Entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that the consent items be approved, excepting item number 6, which will be taken from the agenda. Any other comments? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The consent items pass. One more thing under consent items, I'd like Mr. Grover, if you'd come back. You've got just a little presentation we'd like to hear really quick.
With the change of the month, typically we have a stall of fame, and my understanding is that you guys would like to consider one of our employees for that. And when Shelley asked me about that, there's an employee in our department that has just went above and beyond in the last probably year, and I can't express how much I am so glad he was with the county. He came from an Idaho town, and I won't mention the university he went to. It has to, well, okay, it's BYU, but Idaho. So, but we're so glad that he is with us, and he's always there. He understands the ordinances. He's just always on top of things, and he's always getting reports done on time. And so if you're all right with this, we would recommend that you consider Mr. Steve Burton for the Stall of Fame for the month of February.
Mr. Burton, will you stand? If you'll join me, crowd, giving him a round of applause for it. You have something in your hand. Is that a speech prepared?
I think it's a speech.
It says the agenda. Yeah. Okay, great. Congratulations, and absolutely, that is your parking stall for the next month, Mr. Burton. So, right there by the front door.
If you want to sublet it out, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you so much for your great work. Appreciate it. Commissioners, we'll move on to item G on our agenda, the action items. The first, number one under the action items, is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Powder Mountain Water and Sewer District. The presenter today is Ms. Stacy Skeen. Ms. Skeen?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here to request for approval for a resolution to appoint members to the Powder Mountain Water and Sewer District Board. The notice has been done according to state statute. We received 3 applications. There are 3 vacancies, and one is a midterm vacancy. So there's a box up there with the names of the applicants for you to draw for the midterm, and then the other 2 would be full-term appointments.
So there were how many vacancies?
3.
And how many names do we have in the box?
3.
So great. We'll have one that will, the first one we draw will be for the interim one, or the one that was left vacant, and then the other 2 will replace the ones.
Right.
Go ahead, why don't you have Carrie?
There's more than
The name Mark Schwartel is the one that we've drawn today. He'll replace the term left vacant by Commissioner Ebert. The other 2 names are Robert Barrett and Gary Erdang. Both are present. We appreciate very much all 3 of them and their willingness to serve. Commissioners, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the names as listed, with Mr. Yerdang being the temporary, Mr. Shortell filling the temporary vacancy, Mr. Bernhardt and Mr. Barrett. Well, why does he spell it like that? Mr. Barrett. I forget Bob's name.
And I don't know, Commissioner Egbert, I can't.
Spots, and thank you for your service.
It's Resolution 6.
That would be Resolution 6. Second.
Moved and seconded. If there's no more questions, I'll call for the vote on the resolution. Fatima?
Commissioner Gibson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
and
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Resolution passes. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for being here also. Appreciate your presence as our manager of that water district. Item number 2, request for approval of the Weber County Information Technology Policy. And on our agenda, it says 3-800. It's actually 17.1, acceptable computer/internet use policy. Our presenter today, I've got on here is Sarah Swan. Ms. Swan? You're going to defer this to Quinn Fowers. Mr. Fowers.
She didn't defer, she pulled rank. So
That works too.
this is an updated policy. It's going to be one of many. Obviously, in IT, things get outdated quickly. So this policy was several years old, referred to things that don't exist anymore. And we just simply updated some of the verbiage to reflect today's technology. And that's pretty much it.
So we don't have a 5 1/4 or a 3.5 inch.
Right. You still do, but we
works
removed
fine,
it from
right?
the document.
Still use the pound sign too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pounds.
Right.
We tried to define that in the policy.
Right. It still works. It's on the bottom of the push button phone I use.
Right.
Commissioners, anything else, Mr. Fowers?
No.
Commissioners, any question regarding this? That policy in detail, again, is it hashtag or
It's pound winning in Weaver.
winning in Weaver?
Pound winning Weaver. That's funny.
No questions for commissioners? Any statements? Great. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the Weaver County Information Technology Policy 3-800.
17.1, correction, if you would.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Information Technology Policy 17.1. Any other questions? Call for a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Thank you. It's been approved
you.
unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Fowers. Item number 3 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Stanley Consultants for construction project review. Scott Park?
Hi, my name is Sean Park, as listed here on the
I see
Agenda.
Scott Park. Or maybe it's electronic, but
Scott has asked that I bring this before the commission.
thank you, Mr. Hatch.
You're welcome. I liked the Sean Park. I thought it was a good mix, the two. So over the past few years, the county has been involved in some significant construction projects, road transportation construction projects. And as the audit committee and internal audit function was going around and performing some of the audits, the internal auditor made a recommendation that we had met or exceeded his capacity and industry knowledge in performing these and conducting audits of this nature, and recommended that we seek some outside consulting that has the expertise in this area to do some audits. It makes sense when you're spending a lot of money to perform audits to make sure that the money's being spent properly and in accordance with the established procedures. With the encouragement and recommendation from the audit committee, we have gone out and issued an RFP and have secured the services of Stanley Consulting to perform a limited scope audit for some construction that was done. This one will be focusing more on the 12th Street, and it's limited in scope, and establishing kind of a game plan going forward, or the beginning of an example of going forward of potential future audits for other contracts that may come up in the future. So with that is our recommendation that you approve this contract for this limited scope audit done by Stanley Consultants.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Commissioners, invite any comment at this time?
We're just following up on due diligence, so I appreciate the work that the audit committee's put into this. Thank you, Mr. Hatch. I know you spent a lot of hours putting this together. It's kind of a new field, so to speak, for us to plow. If there's no comments, I'll make a motion.
No other comments recognized? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract by and between Weber County and Stanley Consultants for construction project review.
I have a motion on the
Second.
floor and a second. Any other comments? Chair calls for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4 is a request for approval of resolution, the County Commissioners of Weber County approving the Weber Area Council of Governments recommending of Toby Molesky as the new representative on the Utah Transit Authority's Board of Trustees. The presenters, the commissioners, and I will defer right now to Chris Crockett, who's got some information that I think would need to advise us, correct?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioners. The legal department would make the recommendation that this item be placed on hold. There are a few procedural requirements under the appointment statute that need to be adhered to. The item was put on the agenda after receiving notice that Mayor Taylor, who holds a board member's position with the UTA board, is being deployed to serve the country. And so that the question came up of how do we fill that position. There's this, the statute is fairly detailed, but one thing that must happen before an appointment is made is that there has to be a vacancy that is created. That is done in one of two ways. It can either be recalled by the body that appointed the member, or there could be a voluntary resignation. Once that happens, the vacancy is created, and then it follows the same appointment procedure, which would be a simple majority of the executive officers of the municipalities that are within the voting district, which would include municipalities within Weber, but also Willard, Perry, and Brigham City in Box Elder. Then once we receive that signed document, then we're good to move forward with the appointment. We just don't have all of the steps in place yet.
So once those steps are in place, we have those approvals then from those other municipalities, then we can move forward.
Right. The municipalities will designate and appoint, and then the legislative body, the Weber County Commission, must give its consent and approval to that appointment. Once that process is done, the appointment will be in effect.
Right. Commissioners' comments.
It's a little confusing. We've operated for a number of years under it being a COG appointment. In fact, we have a resolution specific to COG appointments. It doesn't appear to me that that resolution pertains to this particular appointment, because this is not a COG appointment from what you are interpreting of.
That is correct. It extends beyond those boundaries to include other municipalities that would have to participate.
So it sounds like we've got to figure the process out and make sure we're abiding by the
Yes.
requirements. So. My only comment, Mr. Chair, would be that as of today, we don't have a member representing us attending those UTA meetings, and so I believe there's a meeting tomorrow, if I remember from emails from UTA, and I would just encourage the best that we can to move forward as quickly as possible so that we might have representation on that board. I already feel like we're somewhat underrepresented from our community on that board based on the makeup of the board as it currently sits, and so I think it just becomes more important that we have somebody there as soon as we possibly can. So I just encourage.
And that is a well-founded concern. Once the vacancy is created, there is a statutory time frame in which that appointment has to be made. If it isn't made by the appointing body, there's a process to deal with that. So it is a pretty quick turnaround.
Thank you. I think one of the questions we've got to get figured out is, can we appoint a designee, or does that have to be a completely open spot? Because nothing that I heard you say allows for us to have a temporary designee. So we need to get that clarified.
The statutory process of I don't believe there would be a temporary designee. Once there's a vacancy created in that position, the statute requires that you follow the exact same process of how it was the appointment was filled originally.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we hold this item until we can clarify the proper process and make sure we're abiding by that process and working with our area executives. We need a motion to hold an item? Just hold it?
No, I would just state that you're not going to take action on it.
Very good. Thank you for your counsel, Mr. Crockett. I appreciate that. And if you both feel.
I'm just hoping we can see it quickly, maybe next week.
Great. The chair recognizes that we'll hold item number 4 on our agenda. Thank you. Item number 5, request for approval to allocate $10,000 in county funds to the Community Foundation of Ogden Valley. The presenter on this is Commissioner Ebert.
I think we voted on this last week or the week before. There was a small requirement in the statute when we are giving money to nonprofits that the commission has to come to an agreement that in the judgment of the legislative body, there is some type of assistance from that entity that contributes to the safety, health, prosperity, moral well-being, peace, order, comfort, or convenience of the county residents. And so we just wanted to make sure that we covered that base as we move forward with the donation to the Community Foundation in Ogden Valley. And so I just wanted to read this brief statement from that foundation, and just to make sure you're comfortable. Over the last years, they've donated to youth sports, tennis, ski, football, adaptive ski for handicapped skiers, Weber Pathways, school enrichment programs, retreats for deployed military and families. They've through their donations and other attributes, they've given money to the Land Trust to preserve open space, money to emergency responders, including canine search and rescue, mountain arts and music, outreach, philanthropic programs for youth in cooperation with U.S. Forest Service. And this year they're going to start an exciting new program that has philanthropic for kids, and that will build liaisons with Weber State. So I think they very easily fall within the requirements of the statute to contribute to that foundation. And I would move that we give a final approval to the $10,000.
Is that your motion?
That would be my motion. I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the $10,000 to the Community Foundation of Ogden Valley. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number H on our agenda today is public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I'd invite any who would like to address the commission to come forward now. Please state your name and address for our record.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I am Lori Brinkerhoff, 6205 West, 4700 South, Hooper, Utah. I just have to choose if I'm going to look at my notes or look at you, these dang readers here, but I'll try to keep my comments to 3 minutes. I just wanted to make note that all the items on the agenda, I would say the majority of them lead to one area, which is transportation. And transportation, as we are aware of, is a hot topic. As I looked at this, which was presented so wonderfully, the annual Planning Commission report, as we look at the building permits, the subdivision lots, all there is growth. As we look at growth in Weber County, obviously that's going to lead to demands in our infrastructure. That means quality transportation. So I just want to obviously touch on the point, as the last couple months, WACOG has looked at transportation projects. I would encourage us to continue as a county to pursue the BRT. I know that was discussed in the December WACOG meeting. There was some hesitation there. We met with some resistance, feeling that we needed some UTA restructuring. I just spoke with Mike Schultz this morning, Representative Mike Schultz, who is my representative. He is confident that the task force will be presenting Thursday, and we will see that going through the legislation very quickly. So I'm really encouraged that we can come together on the BRT, which I think is a huge issue in Weber County as we address ongoing transportation projects. Also want to encourage all of us to attend the Capitol. I'm one of those weird people. I'm down there daily, have been for the last 5 years. So many positive things happening. I think we have the potential for Weber County. Obviously, we're going to make the legislative reach on so many topics, looking at intergenerational poverty, looking at all these things that affect all of us. But I would just advise all of you to go down there, raise your voice, and continue to support. And look at our legislators who are supporting. We have Senator Greg Buxton, Chairman of Senate Transportation. Great work he's doing there. Mike Schultz and his great work. And encourage those maybe who are of our representative body who have not found their voice to raise their voice and to come forward. We have 7 elected officials. I hope all of them would use their power and authority to make sure they're being effective in their leadership there. Really quick, I know I'm beyond, but I just so much support action item number 3, that audit of all transportation projects. Again, as I sat through that very lengthy WACOG December meeting, I think that became apparent that we need to have accountability for all projects and a project review in those funds. So thank you for taking that action. And then just final comment. Tim is here, Tim Vandernack. He does a great job in keeping us focused in all stories and all events happening. But I will have to say, today's headline, today's paper, I will find it. You did an excellent job in reporting, but I'm of the opinion that the comments made that were odd, even inappropriate, that a current department head on a state level would make a comment on any investigation taking place. So that's just me as a citizen. I find that very odd, and just have to share that as a citizen. Appreciate all your work. We invite you to the Capitol. Weber County Republican Women will be there February 5th. We will be meeting with Lieutenant Governor at 11 a.m. The governor is out of the office that morning, so we welcome you there. And if you can have lunch with us at noon at the Copper Room, look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Toby Molesky, 3325 North, 1000 West, Pleasant View.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Mayor.
Well, I guess we have a little technicality on my appointment, which is okay. Things happen. I was hopefully looking forward to going down to the meeting tomorrow and to comment on Ms. Brinkerhoff's comment about BRT. BRT is needed in the county. I've been working hard with a lot of the mayors to help them understand the costs that UTA is spending with our Prop 1 funds, and to get a cost analysis from them of the UTA funds and what they're willing to afford. Maybe not can is a different word, but we've been working hard on that and getting some of the mayors online with some of the WACOG funds from the transportation and the right-of-way funding. I attended a meeting yesterday with Ogden City on the BRT project, and they're taking a lot of property as a result. And it would be a great project, and some of the station locations that they have is really going to foster connectivity through the city, and especially Ogden City's hubs that they've got planned at, I think, Monroe and 25th Street in that area, and then up again at 32nd Street in that area. So it is a really good project, and UTA seems to be open to the option of spending the money to make this project happen, and it just needs some buy-in from some of the mayors and the COG to let go of some of those funds as well, and working hard on that, and hopefully I can continue to do that. So thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's Toby, sir.
Toby Molesky.
It's always Mayor. Once a mayor, always the mayor. It's a mantle you have to carry.
Commissioner Ebert?
Just really quickly, I'd just like to touch base. I think a mayor should continue to attend those meetings. We want to make sure that we're meeting the requirements of the statute. What we found was there was a resolution passed. The resolution had no standing because the COG did not make the appointment. That then led to concerns about the validity of the appointments because all of the executives were required as in any interlocal agreement to sign. And we did not have that interlocal agreement signed. So as Commissioner Gibson noted, there's concerns with the timeline. We'll continue to work on that timeline. We want to make sure we're doing the process correct. I would say that we've had numerous meetings as a commission with UTA. UTA has been willing to come to the table on the BRT. And I won't say what the number of millions are, but from day one. It's unfortunate that there has been a misnomer that they weren't willing to bring several $million to the table on the BRT project. They have been from day one, and they've been willing to be partners. That being said, I still think there needs to be accountability and scrutiny into where those dollars are coming from. I will say that Mr. Hatch has started that process. If Mr. Hatch would take 2 seconds and just cover kind of what you've been doing, to provide that due diligence on the part of the county on where the dollars from UTA are going.
You bet. We've contacted UTA and asked for information regarding the amount of money spent by UTA in Weber County, and we're currently matching that up with the amount of revenue that has been generated by the citizens and taxpayers of Weber County. We've been pretty pleased with the response that UTA has given us. They actually, back in 2012, put together an equity council. This was a council made of independent, non-UTA employees that was tasked with coming up with a framework and protocol for allocating funds and expenditures through UTA to make sure that there's equity between the revenues received from a particular area and the expenditures made in a particular area. That equity council put together those recommendations. Those were accepted. First they were reviewed by an independent governmental consulting firm, Lewis, Robertson and Young, and then they gave their approval or their opinion on the proposed equity allocation process, and that process has been in place at UTA. We're looking at graphs and documentation that shows where the revenue and the spending, what the relationship is, not just in Weber County, but in several of the counties, all the counties that fall under that funding source. And we're just doing some additional testing right now and inquiry to look specifically at Prop 1 information. And we should have a much more detailed report soon, but right now it looks like they've done quite a bit of work in that area to ensure that there's equity between funding and expenditures, which we've been pretty pleased so far with the quality of the information that we've got.
And I'm very appreciative to Mr. Hatch. I came to him with some of these concerns and questions, and he immediately jumped on it and started really bringing all the information together. I would say that when we get this finished, we'll bring it to the COG and present that. Not saying there are continued concerns with maybe some of the UTA prior decisions and the direction, and I think Mayor Taylor has been very eloquent in addressing some of the issues with modeling for future spending and how they're paying for that future spending and where their operation dollars are being paid from. And I think those are things we want to continue looking for sure. But however, there's been an argument that there's been a disparate treatment as far as funding for other counties, and that we're subsidizing, and we're not seeing that when we look at the actual numbers. And so moving forward, we want to do our due diligence to make sure we can hold UTA accountable for sure. We want to use real data and real numbers to hold them accountable.
I appreciate the proactive nature by which this audit's being conducted. Ricky, so to you and your staff, please extend our appreciation for that. It'll cost the county and citizens a lot of money, and it's the right thing to do. Recognizing no more comments from the floor, unless there are, I'll accept a motion for item I.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we stand adjourned.